Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kirill, your justice analyst from Belarus living in Germany. Today it's time to finally discuss the first results from Eurovision 2026. The first semi-final has concluded, and of course not completely without surprises. If we talk about Eurovision fandom ranking, right before the semi-final, Israel was not qualifying in accordance with the fandom, while Montenegro was, and even with place 5. If we talk about the bookmaker odds, they absolutely didn't believe in Belgian entry. It was ranked second to last, and coefficients were reaching even 4, so if you, let's say, bet €1,000 on qualification of Essyla, you would get back 4,000. And I will quickly remind you about my prediction. I also got one country wrong. It was Portugal. Was it because of the juries or because of the televoters? We will find out later. I think it can go both of these ways. I'm not really sure, but now let's go into each of those 15 entries. We will discuss their stage performance, what went right, what went wrong. We will start with 5 entries which didn't qualify, and then we will talk about our 10 finalists. So let's start with Portugal. After comfortably qualifying each and every year in this decade, unfortunately this year, Alentejano traditional music performed by Bandidos to Cante was not received so well by the juries or by the televoters. We will find out later. I would expect that the juries were also not too supportive for this entry. It's not a typical radio-friendly pop. I was hoping that the televoters will help it, but presumably the early running order, performing after 4 big finalists, after Greece directly, of course also didn't increase the chances of the guys. Vocally, the guys were absolutely amazing. I loved the camera angles, a lot of close-up shots. It looked really like a very expensive performance. Unfortunately, it just looked too dark. You know, the song itself is maybe not standing out too much in the lineup, and if the visuals are just black and white with a little bit of gray, the costumes of the guys are not colorful like it was in the Portuguese national selection, it's also not really helping the song to stand out. I was ranking their chances to qualify even higher than of some other entries which managed to go to the final. I think I just didn't expect that the performance will be so dark. If they would have kept just the same color scheme, the same sort of small stones or rocks in the sea visual which they had in Festival de Canção, maybe it would have helped them to qualify. I'm really curious to see how close the guys were. In any case, the guys can be totally proud of this performance. They did the best they could with the provided stage. Well, was this non-qualification surprising? Definitely not. It's just unfortunate that Georgia, for second time, is already showing to us that they might write a good song, get some talented singers who took part in Junior Eurovision, were very successful there, prepare a good music video which will capture a lot of Eurovision fans. I'm referring, of course, to the similar situation which happened to Iru a couple of years ago. She even worked with the same composer, but then for some reason, Georgian delegation just doesn't know how to transfer this concept from the music video onto the Eurovision stage. It just didn't work. Vocally, it wasn't great, but I think the main problem was really the outfits, the staging. It just didn't really have a solid concept which would elevate the chances of the song. So it's not surprising. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they even got the last place. So in the end, it wasn't surprising that Georgia didn't qualify. I just hope the guys can continue their musical career, maybe we'll still work together, and maybe one day with a better song, better staging ideas, we'll come back and bring Georgia into the Eurovision final. Well, just like with Georgia, I think a lot of wrong decisions were made with regards to the staging. The performance of Tamara from the Montenegro national selection already back in, December or November, in my opinion, looked stronger than this Eurovision performance. It had a couple of cool moments, but in general, it just looked sort of messy. She didn't really feel comfortable performing all the moves. That's why her vocal was also shaky, even though she has proven to us, also, for example, in that Montenegrin selection, that she can sing very well. It feels quite frustrating that Montenegro fails to qualify, even having such a strong song, being such a big favorite of Eurovision fandom. She was all the time in top 10 of the Eurovision fans. She was all the time in top 5 of even this semi-final in the Eurovision fandom voting. But maybe you have seen that, especially in her jury performance, some vocal parts towards the end went into completely wrong directions, so it's not a huge surprise that it didn't work. Nevertheless, she can be proud of this, but I'm sure with a better song, she could bring Montenegro to the final. I, for example, absolutely loved her ballad, which she performed even 1 year earlier in Montenegro national selection. As I was telling you in my prediction videos, I absolutely love the song. It was probably in my personal top 3 of this semi-final. I think girls delivered a great performance. There were some small vocal minor issues, but in general it looked and sounded amazing. I loved the golden effects in the end of the performance, just the staging looked expensive. Nevertheless, I was also telling to you that this type of entries, they just don't do well in Eurovision. I compared it to Denmark from Eurovision 2022, who also didn't qualify, even though their performance was also quite solid. So no surprises here, the girls can be totally proud. I think they did so much with the song, they managed to convince so many Eurovision fans during this Eurovision season that actually they deserve to win Estonian selection and that the song deserves to be in Eurovision. Unfortunately, this type of entries just don't work in Eurovision, especially in the recent years.
Superstar, superstar.
Unfortunately, Senhit didn't manage to become the first artist representing San Marino to bring the country twice into the Eurovision final. Both Valentina Moneta, Serhat, and also of course Senhit herself managed to qualify just once out of their multiple attempts in Eurovision Song Contest. In general, I love the visuals of this performance. They totally fit to the song. These lights which were looking like rainbow looked super cool. All the mirrors, disco balls, even the dress of Senhit and the way she was delivering the song, even laying on the hands of the dancers. I think it had so much energy and so much fun. Unfortunately, the song itself is kind of weak, especially the verses. Collaboration with Florida was more clever. He was more included. They had a little bit more interaction. He was even present on stage for somewhat longer than Boy George. But something tells me Senhit didn't really come to bring San Marino its best results. She just wanted to have fun. I'm sure she had the great time to collaborate with Boy George, to be in Eurovision bubble one more time, and who knows, maybe we will see her on Eurovision stage again. Now it's time to talk about our finalists, and the first announced finalist was of course Akylas from Greece. I thought the performance was extremely fun. There was so much going on. Akylas himself is just so energetic and delivering the song in such a light, easygoing and fun way. I think the staging was very clever, especially towards the end when Akylas was walking through various rooms. I was showing you a couple of years ago, maybe you remember, as my suggestion for the UK staging, how Oli Alexander was doing the same kind of performance in Ant and Dec's show. I thought it looked amazing, and I'm great that now we see this performance concept in Akylas' staging. In the middle of the performance, or more in the first half, I had a feeling that Akylas looks a little bit alone on this big stage, because in the Greek selection he was surrounded by dancers, at least in the chorus. Now he was doing it all by himself. Nevertheless, it worked. We will see Greece in the Eurovision final. I'm not so sure though that this is such a huge contender for victory this year. I don't think the juries will really vote for that, but he can for sure count on a lot of points from the televoters. And by the way, I absolutely love that small tribute to the only winning entry from Greece for the Eurovision Song Contest from 2005 by Elena Paparizou, when Akylas was also playing the sort of strings just like Elena did while performing My Number One. Qualification of Finland, of course, wasn't a surprise. I think it looked great, just like in the Finnish national selection, maybe in some parts even better. I think the fact that Linda was playing violin live added a little bit more power to it. Some parts definitely sounded slightly different because the violin was maybe louder than in the original track. Didn't make such a huge difference that they needed to make this request and fight for it so much, and now risking losing their victory chances because of allegations from other countries. I'm not really sure, but in any case, I think it's cool for people who have heard the song already before, so for all the Eurovision fans, to bring this sort of a little bit different version where violin is playing maybe a bit more significant role, even though towards the end of the song, when Linda is just running to the backstage to join Pete there, she's definitely not playing it live, it's pre-recorded, so I'm not sure why they necessarily wanted to let her play live. But with this performance, Finland has just proven they stay as one of the main contenders to win Eurovision Song Contest this year. I'm sure for many of you, qualification of Belgium to the final was quite a surprise. Bookmakers were sort of writing it off almost completely. It had one of the highest coefficients together with Georgia in this semi-final. In some bookmaker agencies, it was even above 4, which means you bet 1,000 on qualification of Belgium and you get more than 4K back. I can't say I was surprised in my prediction before rehearsals. After rehearsals, I was putting Belgium all the time into top 10, so into the qualifiers zone. I'm sure the song got a great appeal to the juries. It's very radio friendly. The vocals of Essyla are maybe not perfectly polished, but she has a very interesting tonal quality to her voice. Some of the higher tones she's holding also beautifully. And well, if she managed to qualify, most probably she managed to convince quite some televoters, even though of course we don't know if she was qualifying in accordance with their voting. I'm really curious to find out. I'm very happy to see Belgium in the final. It was one of those countries I was very actively voting for in this semi-final, so I'm definitely happy for Essyla, and let's see where she will end up in the grand final. Finalist number 4, Sweden. No huge surprise here. I think the performance was absolutely amazing, more or less copy-paste of what we have seen in Swedish Melody Festival, and with some additional small bonuses. I loved the part when Felicia was playing with the lasers. It gave me a bit of flashbacks of Melody Festival in 2016 David Lindgren's performance. The style of the song and even the colors of the staging were very similar to the Montenegrin entry, which probably did Tamara badly, so the similarity didn't really help her to qualify. I'm sure the juries loved it. With regards to televoters, I'm not so sure. Felicia was performing right after such an energetic and powerful performance from Moldova that even her extremely active and dancey song felt almost boring after Viva Moldova. I still think she has what it needs to end up in top 10 in the grand final, but I don't see her now as a big contender for top 5. Viva Moldova! Wow, Moldova did it again. They definitely know how to get the crowd in the Eurovision Song Contest up to dance, to cheer for them. Maybe you have seen that after the jury show, the audience members were asked to vote for their one favorite performance from the night. And surprisingly, it wasn't Finland. Moldova managed to get almost like 3 times the votes from Finland. They were the winners of the semi-final in accordance with the votes from the people in the audience. So they definitely know what they're doing. I'm sure they will do surprisingly well in the final. Will probably be even in top 3 of the televoters voting. So I'm just very curious to see where they will end up in the end. I found it also extremely touching that Moldovan delegation and Satoshi gave the stage to Alena Moon, who wanted to come back to Eurovision already for so many years. She tried it a couple of times, didn't really work by herself. She joined Satoshi with his radiating performance as a backing vocalist, and in the end she had that small solo moment on the front stage, exactly in very similar dress which she was wearing in 2013 with the same effects. I thought it was extremely cool and definitely a bonus point for all those long-time Eurovision fans. Our finalist number 6, and what a performance it was. I was totally blown away. The vocals of Noam Bettan were even better live than in the studio version. It was absolutely flawless. I can't really find anything what can be improved. I think the staging looked actually very expensive. Even the rotating diamond was making sense and looked very cool. I loved the dancing routine. I loved the a cappella part towards the end. It just really felt like Noam was sort of different league in comparison to many performances from this semi-final. So after this performance, I definitely wouldn't write off Israel from the potential winners of this Eurovision Song Contest. Yes, due to the whole political world situation, maybe it wouldn't be the best for the reputation of our Eurovision Song Contest, but if we just talk about the performances themselves, about the singers themselves, I think Noam Bettan with this entry, with this live performance, is one of the most worthy contenders to win Eurovision this year. What a drive, what an energy on stage, and what an atypical entry from Serbia this year. I was totally amazed by their rehearsal video clip, but it was kind of the strongest part of the song, of course. If we talk about the whole performance, there are so many cool concepts behind. In some parts, I thought the staging was maybe a little bit too dark and not as engaging. I wouldn't be surprised if in the final they don't really finish that high. If you remember where, for example, Norway ended up 2 years ago, the song was sort of in similar style, vocally totally flawless. I think they're perfect in this genre of music which they're doing. But I'm very happy for the guys that even though they maybe were not one of the most loved in the Eurovision fandom community and maybe their odds were not the strongest, they still managed, and I hope they will do extremely well in the Eurovision final. What an epic and truly mesmerizing performance it was. I was so interested in watching it from the first second up until the last one. There was so much going on. I was totally feeling like I'm in some sort of Lord of the Rings realm. Now something epic and scary is happening. I don't really understand what, but I'm totally swallowed by it and I just cannot get away my eyes from it. Harmonies, so how the girls sound together, were absolutely on point. There were few moments though when one of the singers I think was slightly off key, and because of that the whole sound was just a little bit off. I hope they can polish it for the final. I'm sure the televoters are the one who will help the song to go high. I don't think the juries will support it so much. It's just not this typical radio-friendly pop which they want to win Eurovision Song Contest.
Solo quiero más, even
Our finalist number 9, Lithuania, is the only one which sort of caught me off guard. I was pretty sure that Lithuania is not qualifying this year. After seeing the live performance, I felt so bad for Leon. There were so many vocal imperfections. I think the nerves just took over him. I really hope that his performance for the juries was much better. There is such an interesting concept for the whole performance, for his stage image, but because of his vocal issues on the night, for me personally, it was maybe not my cup of tea, but I hope for the final he will hold himself together, will pull out a great performance, and will maybe even come close to top 10.
in my air, I know my air, so stay out of my way. Dropping on.
And our last finalist, Poland, probably brought the biggest surprise when it comes to staging in comparison to all other entries from this semi-final. I think it was absolutely flawless. It brought the song to another level. Of course, Moldova, Croatia, they all brought so amazing stagings and surprised us positively, but I think Poland is truly the one who has lifted the chances to not even qualify, but maybe even to be in top 10 from very low to very high just within seconds. It looks expensive, so beautiful camera cuts. For example, this one, or this one. I absolutely love that stage with incline on which Alice is also standing in the end and where the dancers are dancing for most of the time. It looked so effective, so amazing. The visuals were simple but elegant and effective. So with this performance, I actually am currently seeing Poland already entering top 10 even in the grand final. And this concludes my video about the results of the first semi-final of Eurovision 2026. I'm glad it's not without surprises, it just makes it more fun. On the other hand, of course, I was hoping that finally we will see Montenegro again in the Eurovision final, because last time was already 11 years ago. They truly deserved that, but the staging unfortunately was somewhat lacking. Let me know, what do you think about the results of the semi-final? Definitely subscribe to my channel if you still haven't liked this video, because in 2 days we will talk about the semi-final number 2. See you there, bye bye.